The year is 2025. Experts and analysts have predicted that an armed conflict is looming. The world fears that the US will go to war with China and spark World War III. As the entire world anticipates, we may ask, why a war in 2025? What could have possibly transpired to drive these two superpowers to such a devastating conflict? Is this what awaits the world in 2 years? Over the years, Beijing's claims of almost the entire South China Sea is a cause of tension. This overlapping territorial claims with the Southeast Asian countries isn't just a regional dispute. The U.S. Navy regularly patrols the area and says it wants to maintain the freedom of navigation. China cannot be bothered by it and is building its military installations in the vicinity for years. China stepped up its aggression. Its fighter jets have maneuvered over Taiwan provocatively. Its warships have been spotted close to U.S. bases. And more recently, Chinese surveillance balloons have been seen flying into U.S. airspace. A leaked memo from General Michael Minahan says that open conflict between America and China could happen as early as 2025. Welcome to the 8th episode of Wow, But How? In this episode, we will delve into the juicy details of why experts predict an armed conflict in 2025. Firstly, tensions between the U.S. and China have been rising for years. Geopolitical disputes, trade issues, and competition in the global arena have created an environment of distrust and hostility between the two nations. The South China Sea dispute, for example, has been a point of contention between the two nations. China sees the region as its own sovereign territory, while the U.S. views it as international waters that should be open to all. This brings us to our second point. China's military buildup has been causing concern among U.S. policymakers. The Chinese government has been investing heavily in its military capabilities, steadily increasing its defense budget over the years. Additionally, China has been developing hypersonic missiles that could potentially evade U.S. missile defense systems. All of this has contributed to a sense of unease in the U.S., as they are wary of China's growing military dominance. Thirdly, as China becomes more assertive on the global stage, the U.S. fears losing its status as the world's dominant superpower. China's Belt and Road Initiative, for example, has stirred concern in the U.S. as it seeks to expand its economic and political influence over other countries. The U.S. sees China's growing sphere of influence as a threat to its own interests and power. Finally, the U.S. and China's differences in ideology and governance have also contributed to the tension between the two countries. China's authoritarian regime clashes with the U.S.'s democratic values, and the two countries have frequent disagreements on issues related to human rights and political freedom. All of these factors have led many analysts to predict that the tensions between the U.S. and China will eventually boil over into a full-blown war. The year 2025 is often cited as a potential flashpoint, as it is after the next U.S. presidential election and gives both countries enough time to build up their military capabilities. Experts predict that the U.S. and China will go to war in 2025, which is not inevitable. Diplomatic efforts and negotiations can still prevent a catastrophic conflict. Both countries have a lot to lose in a war, including economic stability and global influence. It is crucial for leaders on both sides to prioritize peaceful resolution and find common ground on issues of mutual concern. Only through cooperation and dialogue can the U.S. and China avoid a devastating war.